Welcome to Precon Pals for the Nitpicking Nerds, a brand new set for a brand new set.
This time we're upgrading the Rakdos Precon Planar Portal for just $50.
I'm your host, Joe Cherries.
I'm your host, Beezy, and that makes us the Nitpicking Nerds. We just changed everything because we officially moved our new set to our new house. So if you like our new set, go to the Patreon and support us that way. Or you can go to the TCGplayer link in the description, buy the magic cards you're probably going to buy anyway, and then, boom, we get a kickback on the order. Thanks a lot.
And today, it's people have been asking, where are these? Well, here they are. It's Precon Power-Ups. What do? We take a Precon, which is a deck made by Wizards of the Coast that you can buy for about $40, $45, $35, somewhere in that range. We add $50 to it, slam them together, and all of a sudden we have a sweet, awesome playable deck for under $100.
Yep, so the first thing we do when upgrading these decks, we just got to read you who the commander is.
For today, we have Prosper, tome-bound. 2 black-red for a 1/4 legendary creature, Tiefling Warlock. He has Death Touch, which I didn't know until right now. At the beginning of your end step, exile the top card of your library. Until the end of your turn, you may play that card. Whenever you play a card from exile, create a treasure token. Just a little note about this, that's something special about this one specifically, is I bought this Precon and played it straight out of the package, and it was awesomely fun. But it's going to be way more fun when we add these upgrades.
So this deck's game plan is to generate value by casting spells from exile through any means necessary and amass a large amount of treasure.
Yes, we're going to be both casting our spells from exile and our opponent's spells from exile, getting tons of treasures. And because we're casting so many spells, we're just going to be like basically doing a mini storm impression because we get treasures every time we cast one.
How are we going to win, Joe?
We're going to weaponize our massive stack of treasures during a big turn of spell slinging to wipe out all of our opponents at once.
That sounds great. So let's get right to the upgrades.
So it's time to do some upgrades. The first thing we got to do, they do this with every Precon. We got to cut the cards that make absolutely zero sense for the deck. And now when I played this deck, the first thing I noticed is this mini rat theme that I don't understand at all. So we cut Piper of the Swarms, Chittering Witch, and Ogre Slumlord, all cards that have to do with rats and like they're kind of aristocrat-y. Not interested. This is not a rat or an aristocrat deck at all.
Rats. We cut the whole sub-theme. I don't know what it was doing. Karazikar, the Eye Tyrant, that's a really cool goad commander, but guess what? This isn't a really cool goad deck. We just have nothing to take advantage of any of that, so we just got out of there. Death Tyrant, that's a cool card. It makes zombies when your things and their things die in combat. Once again, that's not what we're interested in. Yeah,
these cards, I actually, those 2 cards that you just mentioned, they're both cards that are brand new for this Precon, and they're cool, and they're really, and I'm glad they printed them. They just don't belong in this deck whatsoever.
Yeah, Disrupt Decorum, nice reprint, solid card, but it goes in the Go deck that we didn't build. Hellish Rebuke, I don't know who wants this or what it was made for, but this was like the biggest Precon flop I've ever seen.
This is one of the worst cards I've seen that was actively printed for the format ever. Like, honestly, because it is so awful, I don't understand it at all.
Yeah, you'll never see us put this card in a deck unless it's the Nitpicking Nerds, the anti-Nitpicking Nerds deck.
Yes.
And lastly, Fiendlash turns something into a stuffy doll. What are we supposed to do with that?
I love this card. I think Fiendlash is a super cool. Again, all these new cards that they made for the deck.
Almost all.
They're really cool, except for Hellish Rebuke, which is awful. They're really cool, and I'm glad they printed them, but they don't fit. They literally don't go with our theme whatsoever.
No, they don't. So we get to add cards that do fit the game plan now because we just freed up however many slots from cards we cut. So some of the sweetest cards we get to add this first one, I didn't know if it was ever going to go into a deck ever. But Dream Devour is one of the coolest / best cards in this entire deck. You can foretell anything from your hand over and over and over, and then cast them for a 2-mana discount, and then get a treasure off Prosper.
I think something I really like about Dream Devourer in this deck is you can set up. You put it down, you get a turn where you spend like your 6 mana on only foretelling cards. Yeah. Then you can play Prosper and play all these cheap spells, getting treasures and really building up like great advantage.
Yeah, this, usually you don't want, like you just won't spend a card on every card in your hand has foretell. It's not that great. But when you make treasures, now you get a 3-mana discount basically on all your spells. Okay.
Yeah, it takes the spells from your hand that you weren't going to get treasures off them and gives you treasures. So it gives you that upside. The like BZ said, it's not usually that good. It doesn't really do much. It just lets you pay the mana in installments instead of right away, which is medium at best.
Yeah.
But when you add the fact that you get a treasure from these, now it's great.
Super good. Also, Stolen Strategy. You're
guy.
exiling something from every opponent, and you get to cast them. And every time you cast them, you get a treasure, which lets you cast more of them. And even Prosper was nice enough to say play. So lands still give you treasures.
I'm a big fan of this card. I mean, I don't think it's super great, but it is great in this. It's really great in this deck. This is the most medium card outside. I've played it in many decks.
Yeah, it's whatever.
It's whatever. But again, you add the fact that we get to do this, and then we get a treasure on top of it. Now it's just 4 or 5 times better.
Seriously. Rousing Refrain, you're going to get a ritual for somebody's hand size, and then it exiles itself with Suspend. So every 3 turns, you're going to cast it, get a treasure. It's not the best card in the world, but it's just right on par with what we want to do, and it's a free way to say, hey, every once in a while, I'm going to get a card off Exile. Yes. Also, you know who's really good at casting cards off Exile? Bergie and her Horn of Harnfell on the other side, where it just says Exile top 2 cards. You can play them this turn.
But the great thing about Bergie is both sides are good here. We're going to be doing huge turns where we cast 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 spells, maybe even more.
50.
I don't know about 50, but a lot. And Bergie on the front side is going to help you do that, as she's going to not make a treasure, but give you 1 mana for the turn, which can basically be a treasure. And on her other side, you just exile cards to play that turn, and you're going to be getting treasures off of those. So great card for the deck, honestly, because both sides fit the deck perfectly.
This next one is a pretty brutal magic card. It's Uba Mask. It's 4 mana for an artifact. Everybody doesn't draw cards anymore. They impulse draw. So if you were going to draw 3 cards at the end of turn, you don't do that. You exile the top 3 cards, and you can play them only this turn, which is great for us. It's not great for everybody else.
It's just on the Monarchy, too. Like, the Monarchy's draw it in the turn. If it's not an instant, it's gone.
You just lose it.
Uba Mask also, not for this deck, but it combos with Drannith Magistrate to basically lock people out.
Oh yeah, because you just can't cast anything from Exile. Ugh.
Yeah, if your hand can't answer that on board, it's over. The game's just over.
Yeah, wow. Jeez. Creative Technique lets you rip a card off the top, but you get to exile and cast it for free. You can force somebody else to do it, and then you get to do it again. So that's 2 free spells and 2 treasure tokens. Galvanic Relay just says Storm. Let's just exile cards and see where we can go with this.
Yeah, you just play again. We already talked about how our deck can storm off. This one's weird because it doesn't let you play them this turn.
Yeah, it's next turn.
Yeah, so you storm up and you build it, and then you just you leave 6, 7 cards of this. The worst part about this is if there's big threats there, you're gonna become a target. It's like, all right,
awkward.
Awkward. Don't look what I'm gonna do next turn, even though it's on board.
Well, you can stack up your treasures, and then even if Prosper dies, all right, we'll replay him for 8 mana. And then I'm still just going to go off. You can't stop me.
And the last one, Profane Tutor, it's great. It's just going to make a treasure for us, and it's going to be Demonic Tutor.
Slow Tutor that makes a treasure. It's probably not even one of the best cards in the deck, but it's so on theme.
Synergy. I mean, if we build a deck just for power, these decks would be really boring.
I mean, we have $50 also. So.
Yeah. And also, these decks would be boring. All right, now we're off of the cards that don't fit at all and the cards that are coming in that are replacing them. Now we're improving existing cards. So these are cards that they did what the game plan was. They're not bad cards for the deck, but they're either overcosted, they're just not good, or for whatever reason. We'll run through them. First is Fiend of Shadows. This card stinks. Don't play it. Turns out your opponent gets to choose, and it has to deal combat damage. Get out of here. What is that piece of poop? You pronounce this one?
Phthisis.
That's such a weird name. Phthisis is awful. It is the most overcost removal spell that ever existed. Consuming Vapors, also an overcost removal spell. Chaos Channeler, no. Sorry, this is a great card for Limited. This is an awful card for EDH.
Same with Tectonic Giant, and Chaos Wand is good basically nowhere. You can leave it in if you like the shenanigans, but it is such a bad rate when you hit anything, basically, except Expropriate. So those are the cards that, cast things from Exile. That's how you get treasure tokens with Prosper. But guess what? We have $50 to throw at this thing, so we're adding Faithless Salvaging, the much better rebound spell, Embereth Shieldbreaker. Adventures count as casting from Exile. So that gives us a little 2-for-1, and we get a treasure.
Rise of Dreadmire comes with Foretell, so we don't have to foretell it with our Dream Devourer, so that's nice. Rousing Refrain, what's that one, BZ?
That's the one that gives you mana.
Oh, yeah, we talked about that one already. We mentioned that. Yeah, Rousing Refrain is just going to keep getting mana off it and extra mana sometimes.
And there's Hedonist Trove. It's 1,000,000 mana, but it exiles somebody's graveyard, and then you can start playing stuff every turn from it. Just another... It's almost like you... like a Planeswalker, where I'm just going to cast spells and get random advantage at once every turn, and then get some treasure tokens out of it.
Sweet, yep. So Hedonist Trove is another good one. Lelia, the Blade Reforged, this impulse draws whenever it attacks, and whenever you cast cards from Exile, it gets countered. So this is just working with the deck perfectly.
Yeah, it's just going to be like a 3-mana 12/12 eventually that just helps trigger all the other things we want to do. And lastly, there's Outpost Siege. It helps draw us cards.
So Outpost Siege is really not that great of a card. I want to point that out. We wouldn't put it in most decks, but it has extra synergies here. And on top of that, the extra synergy, like, it pushes it from, like, we wouldn't put Phyrexian Reed in this deck, even if we had an unlimited budget. But we'll put this in because we're looking for cards from Exile to play, and that's what this card's doing.
Next, we have cards that make treasures outside of Prosper's Exile abilities. So just a little bit of extra treasure spice. There's only Shiny Impetus and another one of the worst cards ever, Bucknard's Everfull Purse. Like, we're just never going to play this.
Yeah.
We're not Group Hug. We're not trying to pass it. We're not Ineaz, who's going to, like, switch control of it. So forget that. We're going to add Brass's Bounty, Academy Manufacturer, who just says every time you would make a treasure, you get a clue, a food, and a treasure instead.
This has to, like, I don't think, it's not in this deck, but this has to go infinite. There's no way that it's not going infinite with a ham sandwich somehow.
Well, another card that was literally the last card I added to this deck because I forgot it existed. And then I went back and go, oh my God, Zorn says make 2 every time.
Yes. So, and oh my God, if you have both Zorn and Academy Manufacturer out, you're going to make both. You're going to make 6 tokens.
6 artifact tokens, which is absolutely nuts. I feel like we're going to start getting some stormy stuff with these kind of things.
Yeah. These cards are really good. And next, our little category, removal. Danse Macabre's cool, new, interesting, not quite what we want for this deck. Hex, just overall, not
medium.
It's very medium. It's just 6 mana. I think if Hex was maybe 5 mana, I consider it. It's one of those things where it's like, maybe if we cut off a mana here, we can do something. But right now it's just nothing. Blasphemous Act, one of the best board wipes of all time. Put it in all your red decks. Volcanic Torrent, we're going to be storming off. And it cast a card from Exile. What more could we possibly ask for from our board wipe?
That card's really good in this deck. It's a one-sided storm board wipe that gives you a treasure.
I want to say this right now. Volcanic Torrent is really good in Commander, period.
It's just a really good card.
Yes.
One of the best uncommons from Commander Legends.
Yeah.
And lastly, we got to squeeze a Hagra Mauling in because it's Hagra Mauling. It costs like $1.
Yeah, I mean the MDFCs are the biggest free rolls you're gonna get.
The lands. Next, as with every Nitpicking Nerds deck, we're only throwing $50 of this precon, but you better believe we're still finding ways to win games without combat.
Exactly. We need every deck can win with combat, and this deck actually can do a pretty good job of like throwing down its own creatures and throwing down our opponent's big threats to really come together with some combat wins. You're gonna win with combat sometimes, but it's not reliable, and you do need other ways to win. So first thing, Reckless Fireweaver.
Oh boy.
This card's great in this deck. It's so good. Whenever an artifact enters the battlefield, each of your opponents takes 1 damage. Okay, well, every time we cast a spell from Exile, we get a treasure, which one of its types is artifact.
Yep.
Meaning it'll trigger Reckless Fireweaver.
They sacrifice themselves too, which matters for other things. But Nadier's Nightblade, one of the things it matters for, whenever a token you control leaves, each opponent loses 1. Okay, yeah, we have treasures leaving. We just talked about Academy Manufacturer and Zorn, who just make this absolutely nuts. You're just going off so easily. Gear per Aether Grid lets you tap your treasures or your food or whatever you're making and start to ping off things, but you can also ping creatures.
Yes. I want to mention something because we're talking about treasures a lot. This video has a lot to do with treasures.
Yeah.
So I want to mention treasures right now. I've heard that treasures are problematic, and I think treasures are some of the best tokens you can make for cards. So I think the treasures aren't inherently problematic. The problem is they're everything makes treasures too easily. And that's what ends up making problems. But either way, I just wanted to mention that real quick. Treasures aren't inherently broken. The cards that make too many treasures too easily are the ones that are broken.
Yeah, I will add that it's impossible for any token. Like, think of any token, make one up right now. It's impossible for that to be broken because it's not a playable magic card. You have to put a cost on a magic card and then say, make this token. Even if it was a token with a static ability, you win the game. Like, well, maybe the card that makes it is fair.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter what the token
is. Just think about this for thinking about how tokens should be broken. The 9/9 Kraken tokens, those are with hexproof. Those exist. Those are insane.
Yeah, Dockside Extortionist made 9/9 Kraken tokens. That'd be stupid.
Yeah, exactly. So it isn't inherently. I think that Wizards was unaware of the power of treasures when they first started using treasures, and as they moved into the spotlight with like Dockside Extortionist and Hull Breacher, that's where the problem came up. I just wanted to mention that because this deck revolves around treasures, but
not broken.
Broken.
So already in the deck that we kept in that were sweet, Pontiff of Blight gives all your creatures extort. So whenever you cast a spell, you're going to get spotted 1 treasure right away. You can extort it right then and there. But you can just spend all your extra mana over and over. Drain you for 7. Drain you for 7. You did that in the friggin' precon, and you just killed everybody.
Yep. It was really strong. I killed like 3 people with a Pontiff of Blight. Strong Magic card, something that we don't put in a lot of decks because it's one of those weird, like, doesn't feel like it has a ton of synergy.
It's so expensive.
But it's a very good card. It is a very good card. And Marionette Master,
man.
I mean, you just play it and you put the counters on it so that it has the extra power.
Every treasure deals 4 damage.
Is that a lot?
Yes. And then if you go like Academy Manufacturer and Zorn, you go crack a treasure, crack my clue with the 2 mana, you take 12.
Okay. I mean, these cards can end the game really well. I think this deck, honestly, is by far my favorite precon. Not even remotely close at all. And 2, the best, the most powerful, and the one you can do the most with.
I think so, definitely. Especially since you have built-in card draw with Prosper. We haven't even, Prosper's just a Phyrexian Arena.
He's awesome. I played him. I kept casting him for I just kept replaying. I'm like, okay, I get to, not better than Phyrexian Arena. He draws end of turn, and then you can play it on your next turn. Yes. Card is good.
And that deck regularly had 6 treasures just laying around.
Oh, all the time, yeah. You tried to get me to sack him because someone else played it Doxy. I'm like, nah, I'll keep him.
No, I'll just leave him. Lastly, we always talk about the land swaps we make. We always like to improve the mana base at least a little bit. So we cut Zhalfirin Void, 6 swamps, and 3 mountains. And we threw in Myriad Landscape, Temple of Malice, Sulphurous Mire, Ghost Quarter, Canyon Slough, Path of Ancestry, and Hagra Mulling, as we mentioned earlier. This mana base is now just better. We can do more things with it.
Yeah, there's always just 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 12 extra basics that don't need to be in the deck, so we can always improve that. For the budget, it's $50 as usual, and we spent $49.51. Damn, we're good. The original CMC of the deck was 3.62. We cut it a little bit to 3.9 or 5.9. It's about the same. Pretty much no change there. And 31 changes overall. This deck looks very fun. If you are looking for a deck that from like a commander from the new set, I strongly suggest Prosper, and I strongly suggest a lot of these upgrades. This deck looks very fun and very powerful.
Yeah, we've done 20. This will be our 21st Precon power-up. I think this is the coolest deck so far. It's really unique. It does its own thing, and I think you can have a lot of fun and just crack some skulls with this deck, especially with our upgrades. I love cards that are made like this. The design is this designed to play things from Exile or something. Oh. And it happens to work with a million things from Magic's history. Rebound, Adventures,
the Mask,
Foretell.
The Mask, Impulse Draws. There's literally probably 10 to 20 mechanics that just work like this and work with them, and it just makes for this awesome, cool commander that gets to do really cool things.
Yeah, so for the Precon, A. This Precon power-up, A+. This is our best or second best Precon power-up.
Yes, and this is honestly, this was my favorite Precon I've seen in a long time. It literally has, I have a Tibble deck, 10 cards went from this deck directly into Tibble. I never buy Precons.
Nope.
I just don't buy them. I mean, I'm not saying that they're bad or good or whatever, just I don't usually buy them. I actively bought this one because I knew it would be better for me to get the cards just by buying the deck and put them in my Tibble deck.
Yep, so we're done. We got to do shoutouts.
Yes, that is the end of our video. Special shoutouts to all of our patrons. You guys are awesome. You guys have brought us to a new studio with new lighting. These shelves will be more filled up coming in the coming weeks as we get what we need from.
And we have a special secret item that's going to go in the middle that everyone's going to like.
Yes, and everyone is going to like that. And we have to shout out the newest patrons. First, we have Andrew Weinmiller. Thank you. You're awesome.
And not to mention Shane Blegan or Bledgen or Blegian or... You're really cool. I just wanted to say.
Blugan, maybe. And we can't forget Hunter Jones, the one and only.
And Merely the Pawn, which is sounds like such a degrading name. Be nicer to yourself.
Yeah, be nice. And Chris Daddio. Don't forget Chris Daddio. Nobody should forget Chris Daddio.
There's also Joshua Leon Connor Rice, which is just so many names and foods. But thank you anyway.
So many foods. Michael Blanchfeld, thank you. You're awesome.
Couldn't do it without you. And also Nick Martin. We literally cannot make this stuff without you awesome people, and they're getting shoutouts because they joined a certain tier on Patreon.
Matthew Crawford's another one. I thought Matthew Crawford was already a patron. Maybe he joined left.
Miles Sandstrom, thanks for hopping on board. Boom.
Big old heart. Who's next here? Oh, we have James Scott Henson. That's 3 names.
All good names.
Yes.
There's still more because we got a lot of thank yous to get out. AW or aw.
Well, we have Jonah Stein McLean. Yeah, we're definitely not behind in these. These are all from yesterday.
All from yesterday. Daniel, just the Daniel. If you're Daniel, great.
The one and only Daniel.
If your name is Daniel, you wish you could be the original.
Nathan Mounts, which sounds like Mounts just makes me think of Pounce. So there you go.
Perfect. Jordan Vaughn. Great.
Yep.
Not related to Vince.
And we can't forget the great Jonas Kofold.
And Jacob Wharton. You guys are amazing. There's so many amazing people to talk about.
There's literally so many because you guys are, I can't even tell you how awesome you are. Anthony Bell. Come on, your last name's Bell. Probably related to Drake Bell.
I thought, isn't he in jail?
I don't know. Anthony Bell? Probably not.
I saw a really good edit. I think Drake Bell he like served some time in jail. He was like messing around with some person, I don't know. But it was a Fairly Odd Parents, and it was from the old movie where he's like, I wish I was Drake Bell. And then they cut to the scene where he's like an old man in jail. Amazing. Amazing. Made me laugh so hard.
And of course, the incomparable Nicholas Piera.
And Mechanoid. Mechanoid's supporting this channel.
Yeah, Ronnie too. Don't forget the only Ronnie that's ever existed.
And the only Caldred. That one actually might only be the only Caldred. But we appreciate it nonetheless. You're all amazing and you helped the channel. That was the longest shout outs to our patrons ever. Go to the link in the description. Buy TCG Player cards. We get a kickback. You don't pay extra. We all love it.
We're going to keep up on that a lot better next time. And thank you guys. Yeah, use that link in the description. Use that TCG Player link. Please, it supports the channel. It helps us not die.
Yes. And for a quick tidbit, I just want to hear from you in the comments. Let us know of some really cool stuff we can put on these shelves.
Yes, we're thinking the original precons, or not the original, but the original 5-color precons with
the monocolored Planeswalker precons.
Yeah, so I'm thinking
2014?
those. Yeah, I'm thinking those for the shelves, but they can really be anything. Here's something that if you want to help out this channel, does anybody know someone who makes custom plushies or plushes, or can just make or has a better idea for
Fireflower?
It has to be. There's a couple caveats. It has to represent fire, and
cannot share a video game with the other ones already on the shelf.
So like you can't pick not another Pokemon. So it can't be another Pokemon because we already have Solaro or Slagaro.
Lion Man.
We have the lion that represents the sun from Pokemon Sun and Moon, and so we need something for this. But we need it to be bigger. A fire flower is fine.
Yeah.
If it was bigger or anything.
Yeah, that's the weakest link. We just wanted to let you know. Now we're done.
And we will say goodbye to it soon. Peace out, Tribe Scout.